Hello everybody, it's me, Echo. I'm here to present you with the Linux Guide to VTubing for NixOS. Now, there are some prerequisites that you will have to do, just like I've stated on a lot of my other videos. You will have to at least use, if you're on Windows, Rufus or Ventoy, or if you're on Linux, you could use Ventoy or Balena Etcher to achieve this. For the purposes of this video, I used Ventoy, of course, because it's really good. It holds multiple ISOs, so you're able to install things on it. What we'll be doing now is we're going to go ahead and start installing stuff. Now, NixOS is a really hard distribution to use, so I don't really consider it a beginner-friendly distribution. However, you can still achieve VTubing on it. I know this because I had to test it beforehand, and there'll be more to that later. Alright, and now you're immediately brought with the ability to unify your inputs whenever you are launching NixOS. It's really good. So now we have the NixOS installer, so we're going to go ahead and hit next. Let's go ahead and just put all this stuff in here. We're going to go ahead and choose our desktop environment. I'm choosing Plasma. Let's go ahead and allow the unfree software option. Let's choose the time tech. We're going to go ahead and erase the disk, but we will be adding a swap file. Hit next. Install. And we're going to go ahead and let this install. Now, the thing about NixOS is it does a lot of things like needing to constantly be in your config file. Well, how can I make this a lot easier for people? Well, in this situation, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to supply you with a config file that you can cherry pick stuff from. Of course, it will be an abridged version of the one that I will be using. So this is just basically what we need to do in order to get this distribution going. I think this distribution is even more far removed than OpenSUSE is. Because OpenSUSE already uses a very weird packaging system called Zyper. NixOS uses its own packaging system as well. It is very customizable because you could actually get to the point to where you have any Nix system or any system you install Nix on. You could throw the same config file in there when you make a few edits, and it will just start working. It'll let you download everything. You'll be able to get everything going. And you won't have to deal with any significant problems when it comes to like installing an OS, especially when you have things that are like taking a while. Because like when you're looking at stuff like, you know, Linux Mint, Pika OS, like they do things efficiently enough, and OpenSUSE is definitely a hurdle to go through. The reason why people like NixOS so much is after you already go to your INI file and you configure it, you can back that up. Say something happens to your computer, or you need to go, or you're changing computers, you're upgrading computers, or you're just changing desktops, you're upgrading desktops, or you have something go wrong with your desktop and you want to reinstall NixOS. Well, you can take your config file, assuming everything's the same or similar, and you can throw it in there. You can get that working again. So what we could do is once this installs, we could go ahead and actually get the config file that I actually have prepared. I will be changing some things when I go into it because I don't want to be locked out of this OS. There'll definitely be a lot added to the VTuber guide after this. This was actually a request trying to VTube on Linux with NixOS, and lo and behold, you can do that. Now, is it going to be like the bleeding edge version of OBS? Is it going to be like a big problem trying to get everything going? Absolutely not. In fact, you'll actually have the ability to install everything in just one command, really. Which makes things highly usable for some people who just want to load up an OS, grab a config file, maybe edit the config file a little bit, throw it into their config INI folder, or even cherry pick things from it, and then it will install everything that they need. Now that being said, there are a couple of things that we will have to install on the side as well. I believe it would be something like Flatpak. Flatpak would probably be the thing that you would have to actually go to their website and actually like add the repository, because that could be the problem when you're trying to like at least install stuff, because you might run into hurdles. Now, most if not everything would be able to be installed on here, and I believe Flatpak would be able to be installed on here as well. Again, we're going to go ahead and check and look on FlatHub as well for that. not only that, we're also going to have the Discover store installed on here. But I do think that NixOS should just have it by default. I don't know why NixOS doesn't have this by default. I guess they have this under the assumption that you have the liberty to go into the INI file, go ahead and grab whatever packages you want when you look at their package repository, which we'll go ahead and take a look at in a minute after this installs. And after you get everything installed and going, you basically, NixOS is this kind of distribution that you get the things that you need, and you don't ever have to need to actually search for the package names anymore. As long as you back up your INI file, you put it somewhere safe, you could just keep reusing the INI file. Again, you may have to change names, you may have to change IP addresses depending on like the network config or what you named your OS after. But it's really good. Now, every time you update your NixOS, it will end up changing generations, which is a really neat thing, because everything's sort of in its own little container, in a way. So we're gonna go ahead and restart. Now, we are using the LTS version of Plasma. It's fine. It's not gonna really give you any problems. Boot up NixOS. Now, NixOS will not do what most beginner distributions do. NixOS will not provide you with a welcome screen. Your welcome screen was when you were installing it. What I do like is when you go ahead and boot up Plasma, it gives you the option to unify the inputs. So now, you're not having to worry about, you know, going into settings and everything like that. Of course, there are a couple things that I don't like in Plasma that I have to disable later on. If we're gonna go ahead and do this properly, we're gonna go ahead and look for, you know, the Ventoy thing. But what I do have here is a NixOS config file. And that's gonna play a key role in all of this. Let's just go ahead and make sure everything else is correct. So I'm gonna go ahead and change this to a dark theme. And we're not gonna go super into it, but I just want to see, like, yeah, we're on NixOS. Yeah, we're using a Ryzen. It's using an integrated graphics card. It's using one of the more up-to-date kernels. You can update the kernel as well if you want to. It's also currently using Wayland, which is absolutely fine, because some people can probably use Wayland just fine. If you need to use Xorg, I can believe that you might be able to switch over to Xorg, depending on what you're able to install. Let's take a look at the users, and we're going to go ahead and just copy this name. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at this config file, because I have the config file right here. This is the config file that I was working on. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at this. So the name did in fact change, so we're going to go ahead and change that. Go and just update that. Alternatively, I could have just changed the name as well, but... So let's Control F. Look at every time it's getting referenced. So it works, so it's just fine, okay. So this is what we're gonna do. So, assuming that this whole entire config file just works just fine, we're gonna go ahead and take a look at our IP config, because we need to make sure we don't get locked out. So you want to make sure you grab your local IP address. This might change every time you end up going and looking at things. Let's see here. Okay, it's the same for me, but it's going to change for everybody else. So there will be an unabridged version where anything that's referencing my name or my local IP for this computer, at least on this install, will be changed. I will, of course, end up blurring out the local IP for this. So we have everything we need. So now you're gonna ask, hey Kylo, how do I update my system? It's very easy. What you do is you go to console, and you go ahead and pin that shit to your task manager. Go ahead and load up console. Now, this looks like a regular terminal, right? Well, what you gotta do to update I just need the command. Come on. you need to do NixOS rebuild switch upgrade. So that's what we're gonna do. However, we're gonna type sudo at the beginning of it. And hit paste. So now it's gonna go ahead and unpack the channel. And it's gonna go ahead and install. So initially when you are doing this upgrade, it is a good idea to do this. It's going to go ahead and unpack all the channels. It's going to go ahead and start getting everything installed. That way you are then able to, you know, continue just using your OS normally. Now, in a minute, what's going to end up happening is I'm going to go ahead and look into the config file. It's going to go ahead and build. It's going to go ahead and do everything it needs to for this. But this is what it looks like when it is updating. This is how you update and install programs for the most part on here. Now, we're like with Flatpaks, you might have to upgrade stuff via Flatpak. And I'm still not very used to NixOS because I'm mainly just testing it. But if you want to find your configuration file, what you want to do is you want to go to your root folder. And then what you need to do is you need to click on etc. Go to NixOS, and you'll have your configuration file right here. Now, this is what a normal configuration file looks like. Now, in my case, since I already have the config already done, I can Control-A, C, I can Control-A, and V it. And I can go ahead and hit save. So I'm going to ask you to save via your root privileges, because technically you should be the administrator as well. And assuming everything went well, you can actually run this again. So assuming it all went well, you can go ahead and actually run this again, and it's going to actually start installing a bunch of things for you. These are all the things I believe that you can actually use for your system. And if this goes well, you're pretty much done as far as installing things for the most part. Outside of maybe some things via Flatpak. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and delete a few things real quick. So we're going to go back to NixOS. There is a line where we see SDL. That's what it's pointing at because there's an issue. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. We'll keep SDL2 just in case. What we will do as far as a program goes is we're also going to try to see if we can add Discord. So this is how you add a package, right? So you can go ahead and just tell it what it is. Go ahead and put Discord there. You go ahead and file and save. And once you have this saved, that's all you got to do. It's all you have to do to add packages. Now, before we go ahead and try to attempt to install this again, there's actually a package website. This is where you can search packages. So if I were to type Discord, you're then going to be presented with all the versions of Discord you could possibly, in theory, install. Same thing with Steam. You can also do all that as well, which is okay. It's pretty good, actually. Now, if you do have issues installing Steam, there are other ways to install Steam via NixOS, but you should be just fine as far as everything goes. Because when I tried it, when I launched a game earlier, when I was testing things, it worked just fine. So your mileage may vary for that, but it seems to be good. But now what we're gonna do is gonna go ahead and do the Flatpak, and we're NixOS. I'm gonna go ahead and go to the NixOS quick setup. Now, for the majority of this, we already have Flatpak installed. Because if we go ahead and look into our configuration file for NixOS, if I do Control F and I type in Flatpak, It's already there. We already have the Flatpak services installed. The only thing that we will actually have to do in order to make all this work is, outside of rebuilding the package, we will need to, which is what we're going to do right now. We're going to have to add the repository afterwards. So I'm going to go ahead and do this, and we're going to see if it will install. Now, if everything installs on here, we're pretty much done as far as installing things, outside of maybe a couple things, which we'll get to that in a minute because they're flat packs. So SDL2 is creating an issue. Again, if you have an issue, we're just gonna like not worry about it right now. The SDL and SDL2 thing was an issue I was having with trying to run some app images, which you might have issues running app images on NixOS. Of course, it depends on the kind of app image, because SDL3 installs just fine. ICU and Fuse install just fine. So you should not have problems outside of that. So let's try this again. Now, if it starts building everything, then we're not going to have a problem. Is that we're actually going to be in the clear as far as everything goes. We may have to restart the computer as far as getting everything installed. But what's going to happen is... okay, so it's installing everything now. So as you can see, it's downloading every little single thing we're telling it to download, because the reason why people like NixOS so much is because you can literally just put it in a config file and it will just start working. Which is amazing, by the way. And honestly, I would, if I had to be a NixOS user, a big maybe. It's a big maybe for me, because I really do like Ubuntu and Debian. It's just what it's what I like to use. So this is actually installing everything we need. And I will include this into the VTuber guide. It will be an abridged version. Of course, the fixed version as well. It's gonna go ahead and get everything going. It's installing everything. Look at it go. Look at it go. Look at this. It's happening so quickly. This is like very much in the ballpark of how I was feeling with Pika OS. Pika OS gives you damn near everything. Well, depending on what you put in, you can also get everything in here. Now, I did install the bottles package, and if you did want to get rid of the bottles package, you can, because technically you should be using the flat pack for bottles. Instead, we're using the system package for it. It's going to be included. You can actually go into the config file if you wanted to and just delete it. It doesn't matter. But the majority of things you can get is off their package manager, which is basically their website. And you can get everything on Flatpak. Not only that, the Discover store is also going to be included in this. I did that because people who, are starting to use Linux want to know which programs that they can use. Well, if you can get the majority of your programs off FlatHub, and you can go into the NixOS package repository and actually, find the packages that you need, you're going to be completely fine. Assuming you know how to do it. Because I'm still like a new user in comparison to a lot of people who are already using NixOS. So this is basically where I stand at this. So I'm going to go ahead and close that now since it's done. Just going to save this just for... I'm going to save that. What I will do... Go ahead and copy that. I'm going to go ahead and fix this real quick. I'll actually fix it into the Vin toy. Control A, Control V. So we're going to save this here. Reason being is this is what it's going to be used for later on. So it should fix everything else you need. It has some extra stuff that you might want as well. I did cherry pick stuff from Tellerand's config file. And I also had Lace Spades help me as well. So shoutouts to both of them. This is where we're at right now. So, assuming you just started wanting to use your computer, let me go ahead and go to games. Well, look at that. We have Bottles, Goverlay, Heroic Games Launcher. We have Luitris, Proton Plus, and Steam. Let's go ahead and launch Steam. Steam's gonna just install. There we go. Steam, is this gonna work? It's updating Steam? Now, I know their package manager says Steam is a dummy file, right? But it's all part of the Steam stuff. Regardless, it will install Steam. So, it's good. Actually, really good. What we're gonna do now is we're also gonna go ahead and see if we can find the Discover store. We have Discover. We also have Discord. I put Discord on here for a reason. So let's go ahead and grab Discover. So we can actually boot up the Discover store now. And there are things that we need to get. So I did not add the repository, but we're gonna try it like this. It's gonna go ahead and fetch the updates. If it doesn't do that, I'll just go ahead and do this, and we're just gonna restart the OS. I got ahead of myself. Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and just... I think it may have already added it, but I'm just gonna go ahead and just do this now. Yep. It's gonna reboot the system. But I spent literal hours just trying to understand how the hell do I use NixOS? And honestly, I didn't know how to use NixOS. I'm gonna be completely honest. I was lost. There we go. So now we're on generation 3, because every time you do your package rebuild, it creates a new generation. Now there might be a way to get rid of those generations, but this is what we're gonna be working with. Now it's not gonna be super bloated because NixOS, I believe, is designed to just be used after you are done configuring it. This is one of those OSs that I would say that, yes, you are gonna probably be in a config file for most of your time while you're using it. That being said, once you are done using the config file, I don't think you need to go back into it. So let's go to the Discover store. See, the Discover store is now here. And now we can launch the Discover store. So there's gonna be a few things we're gonna go ahead and grab off the Discover store. Let's go ahead and grab Face Tracker. Now, we will be using the Fogus launcher, and we will be using Bottles for 2 specific reasons. Bottles supports game capture, and NixOS actually integrated the game capture package pretty good when I checked. Not only that, basically, when I'm, going through all this stuff, I actually had an issue trying to get VTube Mini to work, because the main problem with this was when I was trying to install these packages, libfuse would not work correctly for it, because I think it's a completely different kind of package. Now, if anybody can get VTube's Linux version to work just fine, that would be amazing. But the Windows version does work on the Fogus launcher, so you're not actually you're not going to be out of using a program, which I'm going to show you in a minute. So we're going to go ahead and grab the Fogus launcher as well. This is a pretty good launcher. It's actually incredible. It's incredible what it can do when it works. Now there is no package that it can be installed to, as far as I'm aware. There might be an issue. There might be a thing on the GitHub for it, but I do not want to go through that right now. I just want to install it as is. So that's why we're using Flatpak with the Discover store on Plasma, because why not? Good stuff. All right. So let's go ahead and actually add some programs to our desktop. Let's go ahead and add Steam to our desktop. Let's add Proton Plus to our desktop. Let's add Bottles to our desktop in this situation. You can add Discord if you want. Now, we also have some audio stuff as well, but we're going to go ahead and grab OBS Studio and add that to the desktop. So I got to show you something in a minute with that. But for the most part, we do have a lot of things. Now, this doesn't have QPW graph, but I'm pretty certain you can go to the Discover store and grab it. And and you can. This is what I use for my audio interface. It's really good. I don't see why anybody else would want to use anything else, for what it's worth. But let me go ahead and grab the next thing. Now, you do have the manual. What I don't understand is, why doesn't the menu boot up when it's supposed to when you are launching NixOS? NixOS, if you want your distribution to be as welcoming as possible, create a quick start guide on how people can actually learn how to use their config file. Because a new user going onto your OS is not going to know what to do. Now, in this situation, since I already have a config file with damn near everything you need, it's going to be fine for most users that are like stumbling upon my guide. This is like the bare minimum things you need anyways. But it still doesn't help that we don't have, at the very least, we don't have a quick start guide for people outside of a manual and some package stuff. It doesn't really explain everything. It's kind of like the like regular Arch. Go ahead and look at the wiki kind of deal. Which eventually we will go over regular Arch. We will see how well it runs. I know a VTuber who uses Arch, so I know it works. It's probably gonna be a pain in the ass, but I know it works. But let's go ahead and grab all the programs we need. This might actually count as a utility. So I'm not immediately seeing it, but let me type it in. It's right here. Let's just go ahead and launch it. I don't know why this isn't showing up correctly. Let's add that to desktop. If you have an issue to where it's not launching, where it's not showing the correct icon, you can actually get a program called Main Menu. Main Menu could fix these problems. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab Main Menu. I just want to show somebody how this works. This isn't specifically Linux VTubing specific, but this does solve an issue if you don't like looking at a piece of paper like that. So we got this right here. This might actually require a restart that I think about, now that I think about it. Alright, so we have August Launcher up. So we're gonna keep that up for now. And we'll go ahead and also grab bottles, because we do have that. Actually, it might already be here. Yeah, it's right here. Let's go ahead and just launch it. So, when you go ahead and launch bottles the first time, it's going to tell you that it doesn't really support the environment that you're launching it from. But it's going to work either way. So it's going to go ahead and launch it. Now we have bottles up as well. So, you'll be using bottles for VC face. And you'll be using the August Launcher for VTube Mini on NixOS. And I'll show you in a minute with that. Let's go ahead and boot up Steam. Because we already have Face Tracker. So it's going to go ahead and take a little bit for it to load the user data. On some Linux distributions, it's immediate. On others, it does take a little bit of time. Now, while that's happening, let's go ahead and open up your web browser. Now, obviously, you want to have the NixOS search for the packages. And you want to make sure you also have, you know, the Flatpak stuff. But what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and pull up the Linux Guide to VTubing. So we're going to grab the ip.txt file, download the zip for that. Go ahead and extract this. We're gonna keep that for later. Let's go ahead and grab VTube. Now, normally, as far as VTube goes, normally we would grab the Linux version of it. But we're gonna go ahead and grab the Windows version of it, because the Linux version will not work on NixOS. If somebody can get that to work, let me know. But it went ahead and downloaded. Go and extract that for now. Let's go ahead and grab VC face. Okay, we have VC face extracted. That works for me. So now we have all these here. We've already extracted them all, because they're going to be used for their own little things. So starting out, we're waiting for this user data to get loaded in. Worst case scenario, you could just close it and relog if it takes too long. Now it's working. Some things you have to relog with. Now, let's go ahead and grab VTube Studio. We're going to go ahead and install it, because Proton's already enabled by default. Right now, we have this installed. So what we're going to do at first is we're going to go ahead and launch this, because I want to make sure this is going to launch correctly, just to make sure that we're not going to have any sort of unknown issues later on. Alright, so now we have the unregistered mappers. Alright, so now we have this loaded up. We actually have VTube Studio loaded up now. Let's go ahead and grab our... Let's just grab a random model. Let's just try Akari this time. Akari looks kind of NixOS-y looking. Look at her. So anyways, we have NixOS. So let's go ahead and just change the background. Okay, so once we have the background changed, what we can go ahead and do is we can actually hit Alt-Enter and change that to a window. And we can go ahead and check our launch options. Now what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to go to the VTuber guide. And then with the VTuber guide, we're going to go ahead and look for that launch option. The OBS game capture. Go ahead and copy that. Let's go ahead and close out VTube Studio for now. Let's add this here. And while we're at it, let's go ahead and go to installed files, browse. VTube Studio, streaming assets. Now let's go ahead and open that other folder up we have with ip.txt and drag that on over. I'm gonna go ahead and just move the file. Now we're gonna go ahead and load up Face Tracker. Now with Face Tracker being loaded up, it's gonna recognize our UVC compliant webcam. Let's go ahead and start Face Tracker. Go and start that. We have the ip.txt file. Let's go ahead and go back to Steam. Let's launch this program again. In the meantime, while that's launching, let's go ahead and find OBS. Now, OBS will already be installed because we had already installed it using the Nix config. Now we have this loaded up. Now, the cool thing about this that we have the Nix config is we actually have quite a bit of plugins. Now, there's like Wayland outputs as well, but mostly what you're going to be using is stuff like screen capture and GStreamer, stuff like that. So, but right now we're gonna grab game capture for now and allow transparency. Hit OK, and now we have a fully transparent image, and I can prove that by just hiding this. Now I don't know why there's buttons on the side. It's probably just because of this model. It's because of this model. Yeah, the model's doing this. clearly. But what we can go ahead and do now, just settings. I'm gonna go ahead and enable the camera. Turn the camera on. Let's collaborate it. And now the camera just works. If we were to go to VTube Studio, well, for the most part, it's transparent. So that's pretty good, actually. So now we're able to actually, do 2D VTubing on NixOS, which is really good. So now what we're going to go ahead and do, I'm going to go ahead and close out VTube Studio. Let's launch the next thing that would benefit from game capture. Let's keep this up. We have bottles. So we're going to go ahead and create the bottle. Create a new bottle. Gaming. Name it VC face. Go ahead and hit create. And it's going to go ahead and create the bottle. While we're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and find where we had installed, where we have VC face. So we do have VC face right here. Let's go ahead and make sure that we have OBS game capture. Go back here. Now this will create the bottle. Now obviously this isn't the flat pack version of bottles. This is the version that NixOS offers. Or at least it's the version I was able to get. Okay, so the bottle is now created. Go ahead and add the shortcut. So you just gotta find where you have VC face installed. Add that. Launch options. We're gonna change the launch options to be the game capture launch options here. Hit save. We're gonna go ahead and launch VC face. Now, I know how to use this program, so I don't have to worry about all that, but let's just do this and this. Let's go ahead and start. And it should already be captured. So yeah, you could definitely 3D VTube on this. So that works. So VC face works. This is a thing that I had discovered was an issue on this OS. So on some programs, depending on what kind of app image, not all app images are created equal on this right here. Not all app images are created equal on NixOS. So what I mean by that is it won't launch VideoTube Mini the normal way. We will have to use the Windows version of it. So I'm gonna go ahead and launch the Fogus launcher. I'm gonna go ahead and grab that. That would make more. There we go. That's the issue we had. Okay, make that a desktop shortcut instead. But okay, let's launch it from the desktop. That was the issue. I accidentally linked the folder. We have issues sometimes, you know. Okay, so this just works just fine. Now it's going to tell you everything here. You can actually just choose your microphone because it will detect your microphone, which in this case is the webcam. So that'll work. Hello. There we go. Hello. See? That works. So this will still work under Linux. So let's go ahead and pull up OBS. And what we're going to go ahead and do, I'm going to grab the window capture. Or in this case, since we are on Wayland, we're going to go ahead and grab screen capture, hit OK. Windows. Grab VideoTube Mini. Now, the issue with VideoTube Mini right now, it's green. We don't want that. So let's go ahead and let's add a filter. Chroma key, and let's adjust the similarity, that way it is actually viewable. There we go. Now it's not perfect, but it will work as well. So if you are on NixOS, you could still PNG tube. And honestly, this took me damn near all day to do. So, my whole thoughts behind this is, yes, you can VTube on NixOS. I know this because I have a friend who does that. But getting it started and going through the prompts, or like going through the config files, absolute hell. It's not a beginner-friendly distro at all. But once you do have a config file made, which this is the caveat. Once you do have a config file made for this, and you're able to like just use it after that, you will end up having a pretty decent system going. Now, if you're missing anything, you might be able to install your drivers and all of that. To me, it seems like all the drivers are currently in the kernel. I think for NVIDIA drivers, you might have to do something special. I don't have a computer that I'm going to use that for, at least at this time. But one of the things you need to understand when you're using NixOS is anytime you want to update your system, you have to use terminal. There is no GUI updating for it at all. You can install Topgrade. So I believe you can, because Topgrade's already installed, by the way. In this config file, Topgrade is installed. But you might run into problems. It's not perfect. Because you might have like some sort of daemon error. And it's going to try to install a bunch of other things. Like, I don't fully understand NixOS, but I understand it just enough to at the very least get it working. I'm just going to make sure I have like the config file backed up. It's pretty good OS. Like, firmware upgrades, of course, failed. I'm gonna go ahead and show you how to change the config file. So we're gonna go ahead and enable firmware upgrades. So let's go ahead and go to the NixOS configuration file. And I believe this is a line that we get to add. Go ahead and add that. Let's add FW UPD. Now let's try this again. I'm gonna save this. Oh my god, come on. There we go. Let's go back here. And it's updating everything, including the firmware upgrades. So that means your computer's going to be up to date. 51 success, 0 fail. Really good. So we have that. Let me go ahead and run Topgrade real quick to make sure it can do all the firmware updates. Because if it can do that, then this is going to be pretty solid for people who want to go ahead and use NixOS. Because this is basically just how you use it in general. Now, you don't have to use package files for everything. You can use the flat packs after you get everything all taken care of. But, oh look, it is firmware upgrading. So we did that correct. I'm gonna leave that in. Yeah. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and, you know, update the system using top grade. Let's go ahead and reinstall and update the firmware, which is actually really good because it's gonna ensure that your system's completely up to date. And while I'm at it, I'm gonna go ahead and just save the config file. Just gonna do that. But yeah, that's basically all you really need as far as like VTubing goes. So you're gonna go ahead and hit yes. It's gonna go ahead and install everything. So it's gonna go ahead and it went ahead and updated the metadata for that. And we're done. It was able to update everything. So yeah. If I had to recommend any OS, I would say I could recommend this one. I can actually recommend this OS above OpenSUSE for a lot of reasons. Very much what's going to end up happening for a normal user when they're trying to use something like NixOS, it's going to cause them to be kind of racking their head up against the wall. Because I'll be honest, this was not the easiest OS to use. It was actually kind of hard to use at first until you understood how this worked. Because you really have to take a look into their package naming conventions. Basically, you have to put all that into your config file. Like, there's no direct GUI or an easier way to do it. You have to do it this way. So for a normal Linux user or a normal person just starting out on Linux, I don't think I could recommend using that immediately. I would say maybe try your time on something like Linux Mint, Pika OS, Nobara, CachyOS for a while. But if you want to step up your game on when it comes to using Linux, and you want to go ahead and use something a little bit harder, then you can go ahead and use NixOS. Now, that being said, I will be supplying the NixOS config file. It's going to have basically everything you really need as far as getting things going and being able to at least, you know, start conversations on the internet, be able to use like your computer just in general, be able to stream, play games, assuming you're on AMD. Now, what it won't have is it won't have any of the NVIDIA changes or the NVIDIA drivers, as far as I'm aware. However, that information would be available as well, because I do at least want to provide that to somebody when they go ahead and look at the guide. So I could sort of recommend this OS to a degree, because I'll be honest, I spent like the majority of the day just working on this, getting this going, because this is something that somebody else requested. They wanted to know what the recommended programs were and what you can actually get installed on it. They wanted to know, you know, how to get things going in general when it came to using NixOS. Because not every user who's using NixOS is going to know that you could VTube on it. And apparently, as it stands right now, you can VTube on it. You can use this. And this is something that is actually not that bad to use once you have it all set up. But prior to setting it all up, you're going to be completely lost. You have to look up information online. It's going to take you a little while to even pull anything up. You are going to be lost. And it's terrible when it comes to that. You will be lost. But once you do have everything going, then it's not going to be that bad. It honestly won't be that bad. So, at the end of the day, if I had to like say something like, could I recommend NixOS to a normal user who's never used Linux? No, I cannot. But if you have used Linux before, or if you're starting to learn how to use Linux, and you're coming straight off the heels of Linux Mint, NixOS, some of the very easy distros, and you're wanting to hop into a distro that can kind of challenge you a little bit, I can recommend NixOS at that point. Because once you do have everything set up, and you do have all the programs that you need, well, then it's really easy at that point. So it's hard when you don't know, and it's really easy when you start to know. Other than that, yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I really do appreciate it. If you want to support me, you can go ahead and donate on the Ko-Fi. You can go ahead and go to my streams, drop subs. If you want to support me on YouTube, you can go ahead and subscribe as well. And tell me what other OS you want me to use. Like, what other OS would you be interested in me, seeing me do? I have heard of some people who wanted me to do Hannah Montana OS, and that would be an ordeal, but I'm pretty certain it's doable. I think. But if you have any suggestions, go ahead and drop them down in the comments. I really definitely would take a look at that. I know it's kind of weird going straight into NixOS after going off the heels of OpenSUSE, PikaOS, Linux Mint, some of the easier to use distributions, technically speaking. But that's the beauty of using Linux. It's all about the same. And that's why we're going on this journey to see what other Linux OSs in the future are able to do this. Anyways, I hope you all have a good night. Thank you for watching the video. Bye-bye.